Yes.
Tonight,
Yes.
tonight we're reading Henry VI, Part 3 by William Shakespeare, adapted by Taylor Phillips.
Good.
Tonight playing Warwick.
Shaoul, Rick,
Love
Chason.
of God.
Wow. After all,
Warwick.
Warwick. What'd you say? What is it?
Warwick.
The second W does not exist.
Warwick.
Warwick.
Okay.
There you go.
Chicky.
Love you guys.
Tonight we're reading Henry VI, Part 3 by William Shakespeare, adapted by Taylor Phillips.
Yay!
Yay.
Tonight playing Warwick,
Shaoul, Rick, Chason.
playing King Edward,
Marty Goldberg.
playing Richard,
Tom Kane.
playing King Henry,
John Defilippo.
playing Queen Margaret,
Valerie O'Hara.
playing York, Father and Post,
Miguel Fana.
playing Clifford, Earl of Oxford,
David Mackler.
playing Exeter, Messenger, King Louis and Montgomery,
Bernie Bosio.
playing Northumberland, George, the Duke of Clarence, and
Michael Janove.
playing Lady Grey, Queen Elizabeth, Montague, Gamekeeper, and Son,
Jennifer Finger.
playing Prince Edward, Rutland, Rivers, and Mayor.
Taylor Lynne.
Act 1, Scene 1, London, the Parliament House. Alarm! Enter Richard Plantagenet, Duke of York, his sons Edward and Richard, Earl of Warwick, and the rest with his soldiers all wearing the white rose.
I wonder how the king escaped our hands.
While we pursued the horsemen of the north, he slyly stole away and left his men, whereat the great lord of Northumberland, whose warlike ears could never brook retreat, cheered up the drooping army, and himself, Lord Clifford and Lord Stafford, all abreast, charged our main battle's front, and, breaking in, were by the swords of common soldiers slain.
Lord Stafford's father, Duke of Buckingham, is either slain or wounded dangerous. I cleft his beaver with a downright blow. That this is true, father. Behold his blood.
He shows his bloody sword. Richard holds up a severed head.
Speak thou for me and tell them what I did.
Richard hath best deserved of all my sons.
Thus do I hope to shake King Henry's head.
And so do I, victorious Prince of York, before I see thee seated in that throne, which now the house of Lancaster usurps. I vow by heaven these eyes shall never close. This is the palace of the fearful king, and this the regal seat. Possess it, York, for this is thine and not King Henry's heirs.
Thanks, gentle Warwick. Stay by me, my lords, and soldiers, stay and lodge by me this night.
They go up into a dais or platform.
And when the king comes, offer him no violence, unless he seek to thrust you out perforce.
The soldiers withdraw.
The Queen this day here holds her parliament, but little thinks we shall be of her counsel. By words or blows, here let us win our right.
Armed as we are, let's stay within this house.
The bloody parliament shall this be called, unless Plantagenet, Duke of York, be king, and bashful Henry deposed, whose cowardice hath made us bywords to our enemies. Neither the king nor he that loves him best, the proudest he that holds up Lancaster, dares stir a wing if Warwick shakes his bells. I'll plant Plantagenet, root him up who dares. Resolve thee, Richard, claim the English crown.
York sits in the chair of state. Flourish. Enter King Henry, Clifford, Exeter, Northumberland, and the rest, all wearing the red rose.
My lords, look where the sturdy rebel sits even in the chair of state. Belike he means, backed by the power of Warwick, that false peer, to aspire unto the crown and reign as king. Earl of Northumberland, he slew thy father, and thine, Lord Clifford, and both you have vowed revenge on him, his sons, his favorites, and his friends.
If I be not, heavens be revenged on me.
The hope thereof makes Clifford mourn in steel.
What? Shall we suffer this? Let's pluck him down. My heart for anger burns, I cannot brook it.
Be patient, gentle Earl of Northumberland.
Patience is for poltroons such as he. He durst not sit there had your father lived. My gracious lord, here in Parliament, let us assail the family of York.
Well hast thou spoken, cousin. Be it so.
Ah, know you not the city favors them, and they have troops of soldiers at their beck?
Ah, but when the Duke is slain, they'll quickly fly.
Far be the thought of this from Henry's heart, to make a shambles of the Parliament House. Cousin of Exeter, frowns, words, and threats shall be the war that Henry means to use. Thou factious Duke of York, descend my throne and kneel for grace and mercy at my feet. I am thy sovereign.
I am thine.
For shame! Come down. He made thee Duke of York.
It was my inheritance, as the earldom was.
Thy father was a traitor to the crown.
Exeter, thou art a traitor to the crown in following this usurping Henry.
Whom should he follow but his natural king?
True, Clifford, that's Richard, Duke of York.
And shall I stand and thou sit in my throne?
It must and shall be so. Content thyself.
Be Duke of Lancaster, let him be king.
He is both king and Duke of Lancaster, that the Lord of Northumberland shall maintain.
And Warwick shall disprove it. You forget that we are those which chased you from the field, and slew your fathers, and, with colors spread, marched through the city to the palace gates.
Will you show our title to the crown? If not, our swords shall plead it in the field.
What title hast thou, traitor to the crown? Thy father was as thou art, Duke of York. Thy grandfather, Roger Mortimer, Earl of March. I am the son of Henry V, who made the Dauphin and the French to stoop and seized upon their towns and provinces.
Talk not of France, as if thou hadst lost it all.
The Lord Protector lost it, and not I. When I was crowned, I was but 9 months old.
You are old enough now, and yet methinks you lose. Father, tear the crown from the usurper's head.
Sweet father, do so. Set it on your head.
Good father, as thou lovest and honorest arms, let's fight it out, and not stand cavilling thus.
Sounds drums and trumpets, and the king will fly.
Sons, peace!
Peace thou, and give King Henry leave to speak. Think'st thou that I will leave my kingly throne wherein my grandsire and my father sat? No, my title's good and better far than his.
Prove it, Henry, and thou shalt be king.
Henry IV by conquest got the crown.
'Twas by rebellion against his king.
I know not what to say, my title's weak. Tell me, may not a king adopt an heir?
What then?
And if he may, then I am lawful king. For Richard, in the view of many lords, resigned the crown to Henry IV, whose heir my father was, and I am his.
He rose against him, being his sovereign, and made him resign his crown perforce.
Suppose, my lords, he did it unconstrained. Think you it were prejudicial to his crown?
No, for he could not so resign his crown, but that the next heir should succeed and reign.
Art thou against us, Duke of Exeter?
His is the right, and therefore pardon me. My conscience tells me that he is the lawful king.
All will revolt from me and turn to him.
King Henry, be thy title right or wrong, Lord Clifford vows to fight in thy defense. May that ground gape and swallow me alive, where I shall kneel to him that slew my father.
Oh, Clifford, how thy words revive my heart.
Henry of Lancaster, resign thy crown.
Do right unto this princely Duke of York, or I will fill the house with armed men, and over the chair of state, where now he sits, write his tongue. title with usurping blood.
He stamps his foot, and the soldiers show themselves.
But my lord of Warwick, hear but one word. Let me, for this my lifetime, reign as king.
Confirm the crown to me and to mine heirs, and thou shalt reign in quiet while thou livest.
I am content. Richard Plantagenet, enjoy the kingdom after my decease.
What wrong is this unto the prince your son?
What good is this to England and himself?
Base, fearful, and a despairing Henry.
How hast thou injured both thyself and us?
I cannot stay to hear these articles.
Come, cousin, let us tell the queen these news.
Farewell, faint-hearted and degenerate king, in whose cold blood no spark of honor bides. Be thou prey unto the house of York, and die in bands for this unmanly deed.
In dreadful war mayst thou be overcome, or live in peace, abandoned and despised.
Exit Northumberland, Clifford, and their soldiers.
Turn this way, Henry, and regard them not.
They seek revenge, and therefore will not yield.
Ah, Exeter.
Why should you sigh, my lord?
Not for myself, Lord Warwick, but my son, who I unnaturally shall disinherit. But be as it may, I here entail the crown to thee and to thine heirs forever, conditionally, that here thou take an oath to cease this civil war, and whilst I live to honor me as thy king and sovereign, and neither by treason nor hostility to seek to put me down or reign thyself.
This oath I willingly take and will perform.
Long live King Henry. Plantagenet, embrace him.
York stands, and King Henry ascends the dais.
And long live thou, and these thy forward sons.
They embrace.
Now York and Lancaster are reconciled.
Accursed be he that seeks to make them foes.
Farewell, my gracious lord. I'll to my castle.
And I'll keep London with my soldiers.
Exit York, Edward, Richard, and Warwick with their soldiers.
Die with grief and sorrow to the court.
Enter Queen Margaret with Prince Edward.
Here comes the queen, whose looks bewray her anger. I will steal away.
Exeter, so will I.
Exeter exits. King Henry goes to follow.
Nay, go not from me. I will follow thee.
Be patient, gentle queen, and I will stay.
Who can be patient in such extremes? Ah, wretched man, would I had died a maid and never seen thee, ere born thee son, seeing thou hast proved so unnatural a father. Hath he deserved to lose his birthright thus? Hadst thou but loved him half as well as I, or felt that pain which I did once for him once, or nourished him as I did with my blood, thou wouldst have left thy dearest heart blood there, rather than have made that savage duke thine heir, and disinherited thine own son.
Father, you cannot disinherit me. If you be king, why should not I succeed?
Pardon me, Margaret. Pardon me, my sweet son. The Earl of Warwick and the Duke enforce me.
Enforce thee? Art thou king, and wilt be forced? I shame to hear thee speak. Ah, timorous wretch, thou hast undone thyself, thy son, and me, and given unto the house of York such head as thou shalt reign but by thy sufferance. To entail him and his heirs unto the crown, what is it but to make thy sepulchre and creep into it far beyond thy time? Warwick is chancellor, and the Lord of Chalice. Stern Falconbridge commands the North Seas. The Duke is made protector of the realm. And yet shall thou be safe? Such safety finds the trembling lamb enthroned with wolves. The soldiers should have tossed me on their pikes before I would have granted to that act. But thou preferst thy life before thy honor. And seeing thou dost, I here divorce myself both from thy table, Henry, and thy bed, until that act of Parliament should be repealed, whereby my son is disinherited. The northern lords that have forsworn thy colors will follow mine, if once they see them spread, and spread they shall be, to thy foul disgrace and utter ruin of the house of York. Thus do I leave thee. Come, son, let's away. Our army is ready. Come, we'll after him.
Stay, gentle Margaret, and hear me speak.
Thou hast spoke too much already. Get thee gone.
Gentle son Edward, thou wilt stay with me?
When I return with victory from the field, I'll see your grace. Till then, I'll follow her.
Exit Prince Edward and Queen Margaret.
Poor queen. How love to me and to her son hath made her break out into terms of rage. Revenge may she be on that hateful duke, whose haughty spirit, winged with desire, will cost my crown, like an empty eagle tire on the flesh of me and of my son. The loss of my noble lords cements my part. I'll write unto them and treat them fair.
Flourish. Exeunt. Scene 2. Sandal Castle. Enter Richard and Edward wearing the white rose.
Brother, though I be youngest, give me leave.
No, I can better play the orator.
But I have reason, strong and forcible.
Enter York.
Why, how now? Two of my sons at strife? What is your quarrel? How began it first?
No quarrel, but a slight contention.
About what?
The crown of England, father, which is yours?
Mine, boy? Not till King Henry be dead.
Now you are heir, therefore enjoy it now, by giving the house of Lancaster leave to breathe. It will outrun you, father, in the end.
I took an oath that he should quietly reign.
But for a kingdom any oath may be broken. I would break 1,000 oaths to reign 1 year.
No, God forbid your grace should be forsworn.
I shall be, if I claim by open war.
I'll prove the contrary, if you'll hear me speak.
Thou canst not, son. It is impossible.
An oath is of no moment, being not took before a true and lawful magistrate that hath authority over him that swears. Henry had none, but did usurp the place. Then, seeing as 'twas he that made you to depose, your oath, my lord, is vain and frivolous. Therefore, to arms. And father, do but think how sweet a thing it is to wear a crown, within whose circuit is Elysium and all that poets feign of bliss and joy. Why do we linger thus? I cannot rest until the white rose that I wear be dyed even in the lukewarm blood of Henry's heart.
Richard, enough! I will be king or die. Thou, Richard, shalt to the Duke of Norfolk, and tell him privily of our intent. You, Edward, shall unto my lord of Cobham, with whom the Kentishmen will willingly rise. In them I trust, for they are soldiers, witty, courteous, liberal, full of spirit. While you are thus employed, what resteth more but that I seek occasion how to rise? And yet the king not privy to my drift, nor any of the house of Lancaster.
Enter Montague wearing a white rose in haste.
But stay, what news? Why comest thou in such post?
The queen, with all the northern earls and lords, intend here to besiege you in your castle. She is hard by with 20,000 men, and therefore fortify your hold, my lord.
Aye, with my sword. What, thinkst thou that we fear them? Edward and Richard, you shall stay with me. Cousin Montague shall post to London. Let noble Warwick, Cobham, and the rest, whom we have left protectors of the king, with powerful policy strengthen themselves, and trust not simple Harry nor his oaths. The army of the queen mean to besiege us.
To my brother I'll go. I'll win them, fear not. And thus most humbly I do take my leave.
Exit Montague.
Ye shall not need. We'll meet her in the field.
What? With 5,000 men?
Aye, with 500, father, for a need. A woman's general? What should we fear?
A march afar off.
I hear their drums. Let's set our men in order and issue forth and bid them battle straight.
5 men to 20, though the odds be great. I doubt not, uncle, of our victory. Many a battle have I won in France, when as the enemy hath been 10 to 1. Why should I not now have the like success?
Exeunt. Scene 3. A field of battle betwixt Sandal Castle and Wakefield. Enter Rutland.
Whither shall I fly to escape their hands?
Enter Clifford with soldiers all wearing the red rose.
Oh, heaven, look where bloody Clifford comes.
Rutland tries to hide.
Look for the brat of this accursed duke, whose father slew my father, for he shall die.
Clifford sees Rutland and approaches him.
How now? Is he dead already? Or is it fear that makes him close his eyes? I'll open them.
So looks the pent-up lion or the wretch that trembles under his devouring paws. And so he walks, insulting o'er his prey. And so he comes to rend his limbs asunder. Oh, gentle Clifford, kill me with thy sword, and not with such a cruel, threatening look. And sweet Clifford, hear me speak before I die. I am too mean a subject for thy wrath. Be thou revenged on men, and let me live.
In vain thou speakest, poor boy. My father's blood hath stopped the passage where thy words should enter.
Then let my father's blood open it again. He is a man, and Clifford, cope with him.
Had I thy brethren here, their lives and thine were not revenge sufficient for me. No, if I digged up thy forefathers' graves and hung their rotten coffins up in chains, it could not slake mine ire nor ease my heart. The sight of any of the house of York is as a fury to torment my soul, until I root out their accursed line and leave not one alive. I live in hell. Therefore...
He raises his rapier.
Oh, let me pray before I take my death. To thee I pray. Sweet Clifford, pity me. I never did thee harm. Why wilt thou slay me?
Thy father hath.
But 'twas ere I was born. Thou hast one son. For his sake pity me, lest in revenge thereof, sith God is just, he be as miserably slain as I. Oh, let me live in prison all my days, and when I give occasion of offense, then let me die, for now thou hast no cause.
No cause? Thy father slew my father, therefore die!
He stabs Rutland.
Defalcia lodus summa sit ista tue.
Plantagenet, I come, Plantagenet, and this thy son's blood cleaving to my blade shall rust upon my weapon, till thy blood, congealed with this, do make me wipe off both.
Exit Clifford with soldiers carrying off Rutland's body. Scene 4, another part of the field. Alarum. Enter York wearing the white rose.
The army of the Queen hath got the field. My uncles both are slain in rescuing me, and all my followers to the eager foe turn back and fly like ships before the wind, or lambs pursued by hunger-starved wolves. My sons, God knows what had bechanced then, but this I know. They have demeaned themselves like men born to renown by life or death. 3 times did Richard make a lane to me, and thrice cried, "Courage, father, fight it out!" As full as oft came Edward to my side, with purple falchion painted to the hilt, in blood of those that had encountered him. And when the hardiest warriors did retire, Richard cried, "Charge, and give no foot of ground!" and cried, "A crown, or else a glorious tomb, a scepter, or an earthly sepulchre." With this we charged again, but out, alas, we budged again, as I have seen a swan with bootless labor swim against the tide and spend her strength with overmatching waves.
A short alarum within.
Ah, hark! The fatal followers do pursue, and I am faint, and cannot fly their fury. And were I strong, I would not shun their fury. The sands are numbered that makes up my life. Here I must stay, and here my life must end.
Enter Queen Margaret, Clifford, Northumberland, and soldiers, all wearing the red rose.
Come, bloody Clifford, rough Northumberland, I dare your quenchless fury to more rage.
Yield to our mercy, proud Plantagenet.
My ashes, as the phoenix, may bring forth a bird that will revenge upon you all, and in that hope I throw mine eyes to heaven. Scorn whate'er you can afflict me with. Come, will you not? What? Multitudes and fear?
So cowards fight when they can fly no further. So doves do peck the falcon's piercing talons. So desperate thieves, all hopeless of their lives, breathe out invectives against their officer.
Oh, Clifford! But bethink thee once again, and in thy thought o'errun my former time. And, if thou canst for blushing, view this face, and bite that tongue that slanders him with cowardice, whose frown hath made thee faint and fly ere this.
I will not bandy with thee word for word, but buckler with thee blows twice, 2 for 1.
Hold, Clifford. Do not honor him with so much to prick thy finger, though to wound his heart. What valor were it when a cur doth grin for one to thrust his hand between his teeth, when he might spurn him with his foot away? Is it war's prize to take all vantages, and 10 to 1 is no impeach of valor?
They attack York.
So triumph thieves upon their conquered booty. So true men yield with robbers, so overmatched.
York is overcome.
What would your grace have done unto him now?
Brave warriors, Clifford and Northumberland, come, make him stand upon this molehill here, that wrought at mountains with outstretched arms, yet parted but the shadow with his hand.
They place York on a small prominence.
What? Was it you that would be England's king? Was it you that revealed in our parliament and made a preachment of your high descent? Where are your mess of sons to back you now? The wanton Edward and the lusty George. And where's that valiant crookback prodigy, Dicky, your boy that with his grumbling voice was wont to cheer his dad with mutinies? Or with the rest, where is your darling Rutland? Look, York, I have stained this napkin with the blood. That valiant Clifford with his rapier's point made issue from the bosom of that boy. And if thine eyes can water for his death, give thee this to dry thy cheeks withal.
She gives him a bloody cloth.
Alas, poor York, but that I hate thee deadly, I should lament thy miserable state. I prithee, grieve to make me merry, York. What? Hath thy fiery heart so parched thine entrails that not a tear can fall for Rutland's death? Why art thou patient, man? Thou shouldst be mad, and I, to make thee mad, do mock thee thus. Stamp, rave, and fret, that I may sing and dance. Thou wouldst be freed, I see, to make me sport. Oh, York cannot speak unless you wear a crown. A crown for York.
She is handed a paper crown and puts it on his head.
Aye, marry, sir, now looks he like a king. Aye, this is he that took King Henry's chair, and this is he that was adopted heir. But now it is the great Plantagenet is crowned so soon, and broke his solemn oath. As I bethink me, you should not be king, till our King Henry hath shook hands with death, and you will pale your head in Henry's glory, and rob his temples of that diadem, now in his life against thy holy oath. Oh, 'tis a fault too unpardonable. Off with the crown, and with the crown his head, and whilst we breathe, take time to do him dead.
She-wolf of France, but worse than wolves of France, whose tongue more poisons than the adder's tooth. How ill beseeming is it now in thy sex to triumph like an Amazonian troll upon their woes whom fortune captivates. But that thy face is visard-like, unchanging, made impudent with the use of evil deeds, I would essay, proud queen, to make thee blush, to tell thee whence thou camest, of whom derived, were shame enough to shame thee, wert thou not shameless. 'Tis beauty that doth oft make women proud, but God he knows thy share thereof is small. 'Tis virtue that doth make them most admired, the contrary doth make thee wondered at. 'Tis government that makes them seem divine, the want thereof makes thee abominable. Thou art as opposite to every good as the antipodes are unto us. O tiger's heart wrapped in a woman's hide, how couldst thou drain the lifeblood of the child to bid the father wipe his eyes withal, and yet be seen to bear a woman's face? Women are soft, mild, pitiful, and flexible. Thou stern, obdurate, flinty, rough, remorseless. Biddest thou me rage? Why, now thou hast thy wish. Wouldst have me weep? Why, now thou hast thy will, for raging wind blows up incessant showers, and when the rage allays, the rain begins. These tears are my sweet Rutland's obsequies, and every drop cries vengeance for his death gainst thee, fell Clifford, and thee, false Frenchwoman.
Oh, beshrew me! Oh, but my passions move me so that hardly I can check my eyes from tears.
That face of his the hungry cannibals would not have touched, would not have stained with blood. But you are more inhuman, more inexorable, oh, 10 times more than tigers of Hyrcania. See, ruthless queen, the hapless father's tears. This cloth thou dipst in blood of my sweet boy, and I with tears do wash the blood away.
He hands her the cloth.
Keep thou the napkin, and go, boast of this. And if thou tell'st the heavy story right, upon my soul the hearers will shed tears. Yea, even my foes will shed fast-falling tears, and say, alas, it was a piteous deed.
He hands her the paper crown.
Here, take the crown, and with the crown, my curse. And in thy need such comfort come to thee, as I reap at thy too cruel hand. Hard-hearted Clifford, take me from the world, my soul to heaven, my blood upon your heads.
Had he been slaughterman to all my kin, I should not for my life but weep with him to see how inly sorrow grips his soul.
What? Weeping ripe, my lord Northumberland? Think but upon the wrong he did us all, and that will quickly dry thy melting tears.
Clifford stabs York.
Here's for my father's death.
Queen Margaret stabs York.
And here's to the right our gentle-hearted king.
Upon thy gate of mercy, gracious God, my soul flies through these wounds to seek out thee.
York dies.
Off with his head and set it on York Gate, so York may overlook the town of York.
Oh! Flourish! Exeunt soldiers carrying York's body. Act 2, Scene 1. A plain near Mortimer's Cross in Herefordshire. A march. Enter Edward, Richard, and their power, all wearing the white rose.
I wonder how our princely father escaped, or whether he escaped away or no from Clifford's and Northumberland's pursuit.
I saw him in the battle range about, and watched him how he singled Clifford forth. Methought he bore him in the thickest troop, and as doth a lion in a herd of neat, or as a bear encompassed round with dogs, who having pinched a few and made them cry, the rest stand all aloof and bark at him. So fared our father with his enemies. So fled his enemies, my warlike father. Methinks 'tis prize enough to be his son. See how the morning opes her golden gates, and takes her farewell of the glorious sun. How well resembles in the prime of youth, trimmed like a younker, prancing to his love.
But what art thou whose heavy looks foretell some dreadful story hanging on thy tongue?
Enter a messenger blowing.
One that was a woeful looker on, when as the noble Duke of York was slain, your princely father and my loving lord.
Oh, speak no more, for I have heard too much.
Say how he died, for I will hear it all.
Environed he was with many foes, and stood against them as the hope of Troy against the Greeks that would have entered Troy. But Hercules himself must yield to odds, and many strokes, though with the little axe used down and fells the hardest timbered oak. By many hands your father was subdued, but only slaughtered by the ireful arm of unrelenting Clifford and the Queen, who crowned the gracious Duke in high despite, laughed in his face, and when with grief he wept, the ruthless Queen gave him to dry his cheeks a napkin steeped in the harmless blood of sweet Rutland, by rough Clifford slain. And after many scorns, many foul taunts, they took his head, and on the gates of York they set the same, and there it doth remain, the saddest spectacle that e'er I viewed.
Exit messenger.
O Clifford, boisterous Clifford, thou hast slain the flower of Europe for his chivalry, and treacherously hast thou vanquished him. For hand to hand he would have vanquished thee. Now my soul's palace is become a prison. Ah, would she break from hence, that this my body might in the ground be closed up and rest? For never henceforth shall I joy again. Never, oh never, shall I see more joy.
He weeps.
Weep is to make less the depth of grief. Tears then for babes, blows and revenge for me. Richard, I bear thy name. I'll venge thy death, or die renowned by attempting it.
His name that valiant duke hath left with thee, his dukedom and his chair with me is left.
Nay, if thou be that princely eagle's bird, show thy descent by gazing against the sun. For chair and dukedom, throne and kingdom, say, either that is thine, or else thou wert not his.
March. Enter Warwick, Montague, and their army, all wearing the white rose.
O Warwick, Warwick, that Plantagenet which held thee dearly as his soul's redemption is by the stern Lord Clifford done to death.
10 days ago I drowned these news in tears, and now to add more measure to your woes, I come to tell you things that then befallen, after the bloody fray at Wakefield fought, where your brave father breathed his latest gasp. Tidings, as swiftly as the post could run, were brought me of your loss and his depart. I, then in London, keeper of the king, mustered my soldiers, gathered flocks of friends, marched toward St. Albans to intercept the queen, bearing the king in my behalf along. For by my scouts I was advertised that she was coming with a full intent to dash our late decree in Parliament, touching King Henry's oath and your succession. Short tale to make, we at St. Albans met, our battles joined, and both sides fiercely fought. But whether 'twas the coldness of the king, who looked full gently on his warlike queen, that robbed my soldiers of their heated spleen, or whether 'twas report of her success, or more than common fear of Clifford's rigor, who thunders to his captives blood and death, I cannot judge. But to conclude with truth, 'twas all in vain. They had no heart to fight, and we, in them, no hope to win the day. So that we fled, the king unto the queen, Lord George your brother, Norfolk, and myself in haste, post-haste, are come to join with you. For in the marches here we heard you were, making another head to fight again.
Where is the Duke of Norfolk, gentle Warwick? And when came George from Burgundy to England?
Some 6 miles off the Duke is with the soldiers, and, for your brother, he was lately sent from your kind aunt, Duchess of Burgundy, with aid of soldiers to this needful war.
'Twas odds belike when valiant Warwick fled. Oft have I heard his praises in pursuit, but ne'er till now his scandal of retire.
Nor now my scandal, Richard. Dost thou hear? For thou shalt know this strong right hand of mine can pluck the diadem from faint Henry's head, and wring the awful scepter from his fist, where he is famous and as bold in war as he is famed for mildness, peace, and prayer.
I know it well, Lord Warwick, blame me not. 'Tis of love I bear thy glories make me speak, but in this troublous time, what's to be done? Shall we go throw away our coats of steel and wrap our bodies in black mourning gowns, numbering our Ave Marys with our beads? Or shall we, on the helmets of our foes, tell our devotion with revengeful arms? If for the last say aye, and to it, lords!
Why, therefore Warwick came to seek you out, and therefore comes my brother Montague. Attend me, lords, this proud insulting queen, with Clifford and the hot Northumberland, and of their feather many more proud birds, have wrought the easy melting king like wax. He swore consent to your succession, his oath enrolled in the Parliament, and now to London all the crew are gone to frustrate both his oath and what beside may make against the house of Lancaster. Their power, I think, is 30,000 strong. Now, if the help of Norfolk and myself, with all the friends that thou, brave Earl of March, amongst the loving Welshmen canst procure, will but amount to 25,000, why, via to London will we march, and once again bestride our foaming steeds, and once again cry charge upon our foes, but never once again turn back and fly.
Aye, now methinks I hear great Warwick speak. Ne'er may he live to see a sunshine day that cries retire, if Warwick bid him stay.
Lord Warwick, on thy shoulder will I lean, and when thou'st fail, as God forbid the hour, must Edward fall, which peril heaven forfend.
No longer Earl of March, but Duke of York. The next degree is England's royal throne. For King of England shalt thou be proclaimed in every borough as we pass along. And he that throws not up his cap for joy shall for the fault make forfeit of his head. King Edward, valiant Richard, Montague, stay we no longer dreaming of renown, but sound the trumpets and about our task.
Then Clifford, were thy heart as hard as steel, as thou hast shown it flinted in thy deeds, I come to pierce it or give thee mine.
Then strike up drums. God and St. George for us.
Re-enter messenger.
How now? What news?
The Queen is coming with puissant host and craves your company for speedy counsel.
Why, then it sorts. Brave warriors, let's away.
Exeunt. Scene 2, before York. Flourish. Enter King Henry, Queen Margaret, Clifford, Northumberland, and young Prince Edward, all wearing the red rose, with drum and trumpets, the head of York fixed above them.
Welcome, my lord, to this brave town of York. Yonder's the head of that arch enemy that sought to be encompassed with your crown. Doth not the object cheer your heart, my lord?
Oh, to see this sight, it irks my very soul. Withhold vengeance, dear God. 'Tis not my fault, nor wittingly have I infringed my vow.
My gracious liege, this too much lenity and harmful pity must be laid aside. To whom do lions cast their gentle looks? Not to the beast that would usurp their den. Whose hand is that the forest bear doth lick? Not his that spoils her young before her face. Who scapes the lurking serpent's mortal sting? Not he that sets his foot upon her back. Ambitious York did level at thy crown, thou smiling while he knit his angry brows. He but a duke would have his son a king, and raise his issue like a loving sire. Thou beest a king, blessed with a goodly son, didst yield consent to disinherit him, which argued thee a most unloving father. Were it not pity that this goodly boy should lose his birthright by his father's fault, and long hereafter say unto his child, what my great-grandfather and grandsire got, my careless father fondly gave away. Ah, what a shame were this! Look on the boy, and let his manly face, which promiseth successful fortune, steel thy melting heart to hold thine own and leave thine own with him.
But Clifford, tell me, didst thou never hear that things ill got had ever bad success? And happy always was it for the son whose father for his hoarding went to hell? I'll leave my son my virtuous deeds behind. Would my father had left me no more. For all the rest is held at such a rate as brings 1,000-fold more care to keep than in possession any jot of pleasure. Cousin York, who thy best friends did know how it doth grieve me that thy head is here.
My lord, cheer up your spirits. Our foes are nigh, and this soft courage makes your followers faint. You've promised knighthood to our forward son. Unsheath your sword and dub him presently. Edward, kneel down.
Prince Edward kneels.
Edward Plantagenet, arise a knight, and learn this lesson. Draw thy sword in right.
Prince Edward rises.
My gracious father, by your kingly leave, I'll draw it as a parent to the crown, and in that quarrel use it to the death.
Why, that is spoken like a towed prince.
Enter a messenger.
Royal commanders, be in readiness, for a band of 30,000 men comes Warwick backing of the Duke of York. And in the towns, as they do march along, proclaims him king, and many fly to him. Derain your battle, for they are at hand. They are at hand.
Exit messenger.
I would your highness would depart the field. The queen hath best success when you are absent.
Aye, good my lord, and leave us to our fortune.
Why, that's my fortune too. Therefore I'll stay.
Be it with resolution, then, to fight.
My royal father, cheer these noble lords and hearten those that fight in your defense. Unsheath your sword. Good father, cry, St. George!
March! Enter Edward, Warwick, Richard, and all their powers, all wearing the white rose.
Now, perjured Henry, wilt thou kneel for grace and set thy diadem upon my head, or bide the mortal fortune of the field?
Go rate thy minions, proud insulting boy. Becomes it thee to be thus bold in terms before thy sovereign and thy lawful king?
I am his king, and he should bow his knee. I was adopted heir by his consent. Since then, his oath is broke, for, as I hear, you that are king, though he do wear the crown, have caused him, by new act of parliament, to blot out me and put his own son in.
And reason too. Who should succeed the father but the son?
Are you there, butcher? Oh, I cannot speak.
Aye, Crookback, here I stand to answer thee, or any he, the proudest of thy sort.
'Twas you that killed young Rutland, was it not?
Aye, and old York, and yet not satisfied.
For God's sakes, lords, give the signal to fight.
What sayest thou, Henry? Wilt thou yield the crown?
Aye. How now, long-tongued Warwick, dare you speak? When you and I met at St. Albans last, your legs did better service than your hands.
Then 'twas my turn to fly, and now 'tis thine.
You said so much before, and yet you fled.
'Twas not your valor, Clifford, drove me thence.
No, nor your manhood that durst make you stay.
Northumberland, I hold thee reverently. Break off the parley, for scarce I can refrain the execution of my big swollen heart upon that Clifford, the cruel child killer, as thou didst tender our brother Rutland. And like a dastard and a treacherous coward, but as sunset I'll make thee curse the deed.
Have done with words, my lords, and hear me speak.
Defy them then, or else hold close thy lips.
I prithee, give no limits to my tongue. I am a king, and I am privileged to speak.
My liege, the wound that bred this meeting here cannot be cured by words. Therefore, be still.
Say, Henry, shall I have my right or no? 1,000 men have broke their fast today, that never shall dine unless thou yield to the crown.
If thou deny, their blood upon thy head, for York in justice puts his armor on.
If that be right which Warwick says is right, there is no wrong, but everything is right.
Whoever got thee, there thy mother stands, for well I wot thou hast thy mother's tongue.
But thou art neither like thy sire nor dam, but like a foul, misshapen stigmatic, marked by the destinies to be avoided as venomed toads or lizards' dreadful stings.
A wisp of straw were worth 1,000 crowns to make this shameless callet know herself. Helen of Greece was fairer far than thou, although thy husband may be Menelaus, he never was Agamemnon's brother wronged. By that false woman as this king by thee, his father revelled in the heart of France, and tamed the king, and made the Dauphins stoop. And had he marched according to his state, he might have kept that glory to this day. But when he took a beggar to his bed, and graced thy poor sire with his bridal day, even then that sunshine brewed a shower for him that washed his father's fortune forth of France, and heaped sedition on his crown at home. Well, what hath broached this tumult but thy pride? Hadst thou been meek, our title still had slept, and we, in pity of the gentle king, had slipped our claim until another age. But know thou, since we have begun to strike, we'll never leave till we have hewn thee down. And in this resolution I defy thee, since thou deniest the gentle king to speak. Sound trumpets, let our bloody colors wave, and either victory or else a grave.
Stay, Edward.
No, wrangling woman, will no longer stay. These words will cost 10,000 lives this day.
Exeunt. Scene 3. A field of battle between Towton and Saxton in Yorkshire. Alarm, excursions. Enter Warwick wearing the white rose. He lays down.
Forspent with toil, as runners with a race, I lay me down a little while to breathe. For strokes received and many blows repaid have robbed my strong-knit sinews of their strength. And spite of spite, needs must I rest a while.
Enter Edward and George wearing the white rose, running. Warwick stands.
How now, my lord? What hap? What hope of good?
Our hap is lost, our hope was sad despair. Our ranks are broke, and ruin follows us. What counsel give you? Whither shall we fly?
Bootless is flight. They follow us with wings, and weak we are and cannot shun pursuit.
Enter Richard wearing the white rose.
Ah, Warwick, why hast thou withdrawn thyself? Thy father's blood thy thirsty earth hath drunk, broached with the steely point of Clifford's lance. And in the very pangs of death he cried, like to a dismal clangor heard from afar, Warwick, revenge! My son, revenge my death! So underneath the belly of their steeds that stained their fetlocks in his smoking blood, the noble Salisbury gave up the ghost.
Then let the earth be drunken with our blood. Why stand we like soft-hearted women here, wailing our losses whilst the foe doth rage, and look upon as if the tragedy were played in jest by counterfeiting actors?
He kneels.
Here on my knee I vow to God above, I'll never pause again, never stand still, till either death hath closed these eyes of mine, or fortune given me measure of revenge.
O Warwick, I do bend my knee with thine, and in this vow do chain my soul to thine.
He kneels.
And ere my knee rise from the earth's cold face, I throw my hands, mine eyes, my heart to thee. Thou set her up and pluck her down of kings, beseeching thee, if with thy will it stands, that to my foes this body must be prey. Yet that thy brazen gates of heaven may ope and give sweet passage to my sinful soul.
Edward and Warwick stand.
Now, lords, take leave until we meet again, wherever it be, in heaven or in earth.
Brother, give me thy hand, and gentle Warwick, let me embrace thee in my weary arms. I that did never sleep now melt with woe, that winter should cut off of our springtime so.
Away, away! Once more, sweet lords, farewell.
Exeunt. Scene 4. Another part of the field. Excursions. Enter at separate doors Richard wearing the white rose and Clifford wearing the red rose.
Now, Clifford, I have singled thee alone. Suppose this arm is for the Duke of York, and this for Richard, Rutland, both bound to revenge. Ward thou environed with a brazen wall.
Now, Richard, I am with thee here alone. This is the hand that stabbed thy father York, and this is the hand that slew thy brother Rutland. And here's the heart that triumphs in their death, and cheers these hands that slew thy sire and brother, to execute the like upon thyself. And so, have at thee!
They fight. Warwick comes and Clifford flies. Warwick goes to chase him.
Nay, Warwick, single out some other chase, for I myself will hunt this wolf to death.
Exeunt separately. Scene 5. Another part of the field. Alarm. Enter King Henry alone, wearing the red rose.
Battle fares like to the morning's war, when dying clouds contend with growing light. What time the shepherd, blowing of his nails, can neither call it perfect day nor night. Thus sways it this way like a mighty sea, forced by the tide to combat with the wind. Thus sways it that way, like the self-same sea, forced to retire by fury of the wind. Sometime the flood prevails, and then the wind. Now one the better, then another best, both tugging to be victors, breast to breast, yet neither conqueror nor conquered. So is the equal poise of this fell war.
He sits on a small prominence.
To whom God will, there will be the victory. For Margaret, my queen, and Clifford too have chid me from the battle, swearing both that they prosper best of all when I am dead. Would I were dead, if God's good will were so, for what is in this world but grief and woe? Oh God, methinks it were a happy life to be no better than a homely swain, to sit upon a hill as I do now, to carve out dials quietly, point by point, thereby to see the minutes how they run. So many hours must I tend my flock, so many hours must I take my rest, so many hours must I contemplate, so many hours must I sport myself. So minutes, hours, days, months, and years passed over to the end they were created, to bring white hairs into a quiet grave. What a life for this. How sweet, how lovely. And to compare the shepherd's homely curds, his cold thin drink out of his leather bottle, his wonted sleep under a fresh tree shade, all which secure and sweetly he enjoys is far beyond a prince's delicates. His viands sparkling in a golden cup, his body couched in a curious bed, when care, mistrust, and treason waits on him.
Alarm. Enter at one door a son, carrying a body.
This man, whom hand to hand I slew in fright, may be possessed with some store of crowns, and I that happily take them from him now, and yet ere night yield both my life and them to some man else, as this dead man does me.
He uncovers the face.
Who's this? God, it is my father's face. The one whose comfort I unawares have killed. Oh, happy times forgetting such events. From London by the king was I pressed forth, my father being the Earl of Warwick's man, came on the part of York, pressed by his master, and I, who at his hands received my life, by my hands of life bereaved him. Pardon me, God, I knew not what I did, and pardon, Father, for I knew not thee.
He weeps.
Oh, piteous spectacle! Oh, bloody times! As lions war in battle for their dens, poor harmless lambs abide their enmity. Weep, wretched man, I'll aid thee tear for tear, and let our hearts and eyes, like civil war, be blind with tears and break, overcharged with grief.
Enter at another door a father bearing a body.
Thou that so stoutly hath resisted me, give me thy gold, if thou hast any gold, for I have bought it with 100 blows. But let me see, is this our foreman's face?
He uncovers the face.
Ah, no, 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 it is mine only son! Oh, pity God this miserable age! What stratagems, how fell, how butcherly, erroneous, mutinous, and unnatural this deadly quarrel daily doth beget! Oh, boy, thy father gave thee life too soon, and have bereft thee of thy life too late.
Woe above woe, grief more than common grief. Oh, that my death would stay these rueful deaths. Oh, pity, pity, gentle heaven, pity.
Son.
How will my mother or her father's death take on with me and ne'er be satisfied?
My wife for slaughter of my son shed seas of tears and ne'er be satisfied.
How will the country for these woeful chances misthink the king and not be satisfied?
Was ever since so rude a father's death? I'll bear thee hence where I may weep my fill.
Exit son bearing the body.
Was ever father so bemoaned his son? I'll bear thee hence, and let them fight that will, for I have murdered where I should not kill.
Exit father bearing the body.
Was ever king so grieved for subjects' woe? Sad-hearted men, much overgrown with care. Here sits a king more woeful than you are.
Alarms, excursions. Enter Queen Margaret, Prince Edward, and Exeter, all wearing the red rose.
Fly, father, fly! For all your friends are fled, and Warwick rages like a chafed bull. Away, for death doth hold us in pursuit!
Mount you, my lord, towards Berwick post amain. Edward and Richard, like a brace of greyhounds, having the fearful flying hare in sight, with fiery eyes sparkling for the very wrath, and bloody steel grasped in their ireful hands, are at our backs, and therefore hence amain.
Away, away, for vengeance comes along with them.
Whither the queen intends. Forward, away.
Exeunt. Scene 6, another part of the field. A loud alarm. Enter Clifford, wearing the red rose, mortally wounded.
Here burns my candle out. Aye, here it dies, which whilst it lasted gave King Henry light. O Lancaster, I fear thy overthrow more than my body's parting with my soul. My love and fear glued many friends to thee, and now I fall. Thy tough commixtures melts, impairing Henry, strengthening misproud York. And whither fly the gnats but to the sun? And who shines now but Henry's enemies? And Henry, hadst thou swayed as kings should do, or as thy father and his father did, grieving no ground upon the house of York, they never then had sprung like summer flies. For what doth cherish weeds but gentle air? And what makes robbers bold but too much lenity? Bootless are plaints, and cureless are my wounds. No way to fly, no strength to hold out flight. The foe is merciless and will not pity, for at their hands I have deserved no pity. Come York and Richard, Warwick and the rest. I stabbed thy father's bosoms, split my breast.
He faints. Alarm and retreat. Enter Edward, Warwick, Richard, George, and soldiers, all wearing the white rose.
Now breathe, we lords. Good fortune bids us pause and smooth the frowns of war with peaceful looks. Some troops pursue the bloody-minded queen, that led calm Henry, though he were a king, as doth a sail filled with fretting gusts, command an argosy to stem the waves. But think you, lords, that Clifford fled with them?
No, 'tis impossible he should escape. Your brother Richard marked him for the grave, and wheresoe'er he is surely dead.
Clifford groans and dies.
Whose soul is that which takes her heavy leave? A deadly groan, like life and death's departing.
See who it is. And now the battle's ended. If friend or foe, let him be gently used.
Revoke that doom of mercy, for 'tis Clifford, who not contented that he lopped the branch in Ewing Rutland when his lees put forth, but set his murdering knife into the root, from whence the tender spray did sweetly spring.
Speak, Clifford. Dost thou know who speaks to thee? Dark cloud lead death o'ershades his beams of light, and he nor sees nor hears us what we say.
Oh, would he did, and so perhaps he doth. 'Tis but his policy to counterfeit, because he would avoid such bitter taunts, which in a time of death he gave our father.
So thou thinkest, vexed him with eager words.
Clifford, devise excuses for thy faults.
While we devise fell tortures for thy faults.
Thou pitiest Rutland, I will pity thee.
Where's Captain Margaret to fence you now?
They mock thee, Clifford, swearest thou onst won't.
What? Not an oath? Nay then, The world goes hard when Clifford cannot spare his friends an oath. I know by that he's dead. And by my soul, if this right hand would buy but 2 hours' life, then I and all despite might rail at him. This hand should chop it off, and with the issuing blood stifle the villain whose unstaunched thirst York and young Rutland could not satisfy.
Aye, but he's dead. Off with the traitor's head, and rear it in the place your father stands. And now to London with triumphant march, there to be crowned England's royal king, from whence shall Warwick cut the sea to France, and ask the Lady Bona for thy queen. So shalt thou sinew both these lands together. Having France thy friend, thou shalt not dread the scattered foe that hopes to rise again. For though they cannot greatly sting to hurt, yet look to have them buzz to offend thine ears. First will I see the coronation, and then to Brittany I'll cross the sea, to effect this marriage, so it please my lord.
Even as thou wilt, sweet Warwick, let it be. For in thy shoulder do I build my seat, and never will I undertake the thing wherein thy counsel and consent is wanting. Richard, I will create thee Duke of Gloucester, and George of Clarence. Warwick, as ourself, shall do and undo as him pleaseth best.
Let me be Duke of Clarence, George of Gloucester, for Gloucester's king dukedom is too ominous.
Ha! That's a foolish observation. Richard, be Duke of Gloucester. Now to London, to see these honours in possession.
Exeunt with Clifford's body. Act 3, Scene 1. A forest in the north of England. Enter a gamekeeper with a crossbow in his hands.
Under this thick-grown brake I'll shroud myself, and for through this lawn anon the deer will come, and in this covert will I make my stand, calling the principal of all the deer.
He hides in the underbrush. Enter King Henry in disguise with a prayer book.
Scotland, and am I stolen even of pure love, to greet mine own land with my wishful sight? No, Harry, tis no land of thine. Thy place is filled, thy scepter wrung from thee, thy balm washed off wherewith thou wast anointed. No bending knee will call thee Caesar now, no humble suitors press to speak for right. No, not a man comes for redress of thee. How can I help them and not myself? Let me embrace the sour adversaries. For wise men say it is the wisest course. My queen and son are gone to France for aid, and as I hear the great commanding Warwick is thither gone to crave the French king's sister to wife for Edward. This news be true, or queen and son, your labor is but lost. For Warwick is a subtle orator, and Lewis a prince soon won with moving words. For this account, then, Margaret may win him. She's a woman to be pitied much. Her sighs will make a battery in his breast, her tears will pierce into a marble heart. The tiger will be mild while she doth mourn, to hear and see her plaints, her brinish tears. Aye, but she's come to beg, Warwick to give. She's on his left side craving aid for Henry, he on his right asking a wife for Edward. She weeps and say her Henry is disposed, smiles and say his Edward is installed. But she, poor wretch, for grief can speak no more, while Warwick tells his title, smooths the wrong, inferreth arguments of mighty strength, and in conclusion wins the king from her with promise of his sister. What else to strengthen and support King Edward's place? Oh, Margaret, thus shall it be. Thou, poor soul, art then forsaken, as thou went forlorn.
Gamekeeper comes forward.
Say, what art the talks the kings and queens?
More than I seem, and less than I was born to. A man, at least, for less I should not be. And men may talk of kings, and why not I?
Aye, but thou talks as if thou wert a king.
Why, so I am, in mind, and that's enough.
But if thou beest the king, where's thy crown?
My crown is in my heart, not on my head. Not decked with diamonds or Indian stones, nor to be seen. My crown is called content. A crown it is that seldom kings enjoy.
Well, if you be a king crowned with content, or crown content, then you must be content to go along with me. Or, as I think, you are the king King Edward hath deposed, and I, as subject sworn in all allegiance, will apprehend you as his enemy.
But did you never swear and break an oath?
No, never such an oath, nor will not now.
I was anointed king at 9 months old. My father and my grandfather were kings, and you were sworn true subject unto me. And tell me then, have you not broke your oath?
No, for we were subject, but while you were king.
Why am I dead? Do I not breathe a man? Simple man, you know not what you swear. Look as I blow this sweater from my face, and as the air blows it to me again, obeying with my wind when I do blow, and yielding to another when it blows, commanded always by the greater gust, such as the lightness of you common men. But do not break your oath, for of that sin my mild entreaty shall not make you guilty. Go well you will. The king shall be commanded, and be you king. Command and I'll obey, in God's name lead. The king's name be obeyed. What God will, that let your king perform. And what he will, I humbly yield unto.
Exeunt. Scene 2, London, the palace. Enter Edward, now King Edward, in the script. Richard, now the Duke of Gloucester, remains Richard in the script. George, now the Duke of Clarence, is referred to as Clarence in the script. Lady Grey and attendants.
Brother of Gloucester, at St. Albans field, this lady's husband, Sir Richard Grey, was slain. His land then seized on by the conqueror. Her suit is now to repossess those lands, which we in justice cannot well deny, because in quarrel of the House of York, the worthy gentleman did lose his life.
Your Highness shall do well to grant her suit. It were dishonor to deny it her.
It were no less, but yet I'll make a pause, lords. Give us leave. I'll try this widow's wit.
Richard and Clarence stand aside.
I see the lady hath a thing to grant, before the king will grant her humble suit.
He knows the game. How true he keeps the wind.
Widow, we will consider of your suit.
May it please your highness to resolve me now, and what your pleasure is shall satisfy me.
Aye, widow. Then I'll warrant you all your lands, and what pleases him shall pleasure you. Fight closer, a good faith, you'll catch a blow.
How many children hast thou, widow? Tell me.
I think he means to beg a child of her.
Nay then, whip me. He'll rather give her two.
3, my most gracious lord.
You shall have 4 if you rule by him.
Now tell me, madam, do you love your children?
Aye, full as dearly as I love myself.
And would you not do much to do them good?
To do them good, I would sustain some harm.
Then get your husband's lands to do them good.
Therefore I came unto your majesty.
What service will thou do me if I give them?
What you command that rests of me to do.
You will take exceptions to my boon.
No, gracious lord, except I cannot do it.
Aye, but thou canst do what I mean to ask.
Why then I will do what your grace commands.
He plies her hard, and much rain wears the marble.
As red as fire. Nay, then, her wax must melt.
Why stops, my lord? Shall I not hear my task?
An easy task. 'Tis but to love a king.
That's soon performed because I am a subject.
It is the fruits of love, I mean.
The fruits of love, I mean, my loving liege.
What love thinkest thou I sue so much to get?
My love till death, my humble thanks, my prayers, that love with virtue begs and virtue grants.
No. By my troth, I did not mean such love.
Why then you mean not as I thought you did?
But now you partly may perceive my mind.
My mind will never grant what I perceive your highness aims at if I aim aright.
Then tell thee plain, I aim to lie with thee.
To tell you plain, I had rather lie in prison.
Why then thou shalt not have thy husband's lands?
Why then, my honesty shall be my dower, for by that loss I will not purchase them.
Therein thou wrongest thy children mightily.
Herein your highness wrongs both them and me. Please you dismiss me with either with aye or no.
Aye, if thou wilt say aye to my request. No, if thou dost say no to my demand.
Then no, my lord, my suit is at an end.
Her looks doth argue her replete with modesty. Her words doth show her wit incomparable. All her perfections challenge sovereignty. One way or other, she is for a king, and she shall be my love or else my queen. They that King Edward take thee for his queen, sweet widow, by my state I swear to thee, I speak no more than what my soul intends, and that is to enjoy thee for my love.
And that is more than I will yield unto. I know I am too mean to be your queen, and yet too good to be your concubine.
Answer no more, for thou shalt be my queen.
Widow likes him not. She knits her brows.
He is the bluntest wooer in Christendom.
Brothers,
Oh,
you muse what chat we two have had. You'd think it strange if I should marry her.
That would be 10 days' wonder at the least.
that's a day longer than a wonder lasts.
By so much is the wonder in extremes.
Ha 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 ha. Well, just on, brothers. I can tell you both her suit is granted for her husband's lands.
Enter Montague.
My gracious lord, Henry, your foe, is taken and brought your prisoner to your palace gate.
Be that he be conveyed unto the tower.
Exit Montague.
And go we, brothers, to the man that took him, to question of his apprehension. Widow, go you along. Lords, use her honorably.
Exeunt all but Richard.
Aye, Edward will use women honorably. Would he were wasted, marrow, bones, and all, that from his loins no hopeful branch may spring to cross me from the golden time I looked for. And yet between my soul's desire and me, the lustful Edward's title buried is Clarence, Henry, and his young son Edward, and all the unlooked for issue of their bodies to take their rooms, or I can place myself. Cold premeditation for my purpose. Why then, I do but dream on sovereignty like one stands upon a promontory, and spies afar off shore where he would tread, wishing his foot were equal with his eye, and chides the sea that sunders him from thence, saying he'll lade it to dry to have his way. So do I wish the crown, being so far off, and so I chide the means that keeps me from it, and so I say, I'll cut the causes off, flattering me with impossibilities. My eyes too quick, my heart o'erween's too much, unless my hand and strength could equal them. Well, say, there is no kingdom then for Richard? What other pleasure can the world afford? Why, love forswore me in my mother's womb, and for I should not deal in her so flaws, she did corrupt fair nature with some bribe to shrink mine arm up like a withered shrub, to make an envious mountain on my back, where sits deformity to mock my body, to shape my legs of unequal size, to disproportion me in every part, like to a chaos or an unlicked bear whelp that carries no impression like the dam. Am I then a man to be beloved? Oh, monstrous fall to harbor such a thought. Then since this earth affords no joy to me, but to command, to check, to o'erbear such as are better person than myself, I'll make my heaven to dream upon the crown. And whiles I live to count this world but hell, until my misshaped trunk that bears this head be round and paled with a glorious crown. And yet I know not how to get the crown. But many lives stand between me and home, and I, like one lost in a thorny wood that rents the thorns and is rent with the thorns, seeking a way and straying from the way, not knowing how to find the open air, but toiling desperately to find it out. Torment myself to catch the English crown. And from that torment I will free myself, or hew my way out with bloody axe. Why, I can smile and murder whilst I smile, and cry content to that which grieves my heart, and wet my cheeks with artificial tears, and frame my face to all occasions. I'll play the orator as well as Nestor, deceive more slyly than Ulysses could, and like a Cyanon, take another Troy. I can add colors to the chameleon, change shapes with the Proteus for advantages, and set the murderous Machiavel to school. Can I do this and cannot get a crown? Tut! Were it further off, I'd pluck it down.
Exit Richard. Scene 3, France. King Louis XI's palace. Flourish. Enter King Louis XI with French lords, Prince Edward, Queen Margaret, and the Earl of Oxford, the last three wearing the red rose.
Be plain, Queen Margaret, and tell thy grief. It shall be eased if France can yield relief.
Most gracious words would revive my drooping thoughts and give my tongue-tied sorrows leave to speak. Now therefore be it known to noble Louis that Henry, sole possessor of my love, is of a king become a banished man, and forced to live in Scotland a forlorn, while proud ambitious Edward, Duke of York, usurps the regal title and the seat of England's true appointed lawful king. This is the cause that I, poor Margaret, with this my son Prince Edward, Henry's heir, am come to crave thy just and lawful aid. And if thou fail us, all our hope is done. Our people and our peers are both misled, our treasures seized, our soldiers put to flight, and, as thou seest, ourselves in heavy plight.
Renowned Queen, with patience calm the storm, while we bethink a means to break it off.
The more we stay, the stronger grows our foe.
The more I stay, the more I'll succor thee.
Oh, but impatience waiteth on true sorrow.
Enter Warwick wearing the white rose.
And see, where comes the breeder of my sorrow?
What's he approacheth boldly to our presence?
Our Earl of Warwick, Edward's greatest friend.
Welcome, brave Warwick. What brings thee to France?
Aye, now begins a second storm to rise, for this is he that moves both wind and tide.
From worthy Edward, King of Albion, my lord and sovereign and thy vowed friend, I come in kindness and unfeigned love, first to do greetings to thy royal person, and then to crave a league of amity, and, lastly, to confirm that amity with nuptial knot, if thou vouchsafe to grant that virtuous Lady Bona, thy fair sister, to England's king in lawful marriage.
If that go forward, Henry's hope is done.
And, gracious sire, in our king's behalf, I am commanded, with your leave and favor, tell the passion of my sovereign's heart, where fame, late entering at his heedful ears, hath placed her beauty's image and her virtue.
Pardon me, King Louis, and hear me speak before you answer Warwick. His demand springs not from Edward's well-meant, honest love, but from deceit, bred by necessity. For how can tyrants safely govern home unless abroad they purchase great alliance? To prove him tyrant, this reason may suffice, that Henry liveth still. But were he dead, yet here Prince Edward stands, King Henry's son. Look therefore, Louis, that by this league and marriage thou draw not on thy danger and dishonor. For though usurpers sway the rule awhile, yet heavens are just, and time suppresseth wrong.
Injurious Margaret.
And why not queen?
Because thy father Henry did usurp, and thou no more art prince than she is queen.
Then Warwick disannuls the great John of Gaunt, which did subdue the greatest part of Spain, and after John of Gaunt, Henry IV, whose wisdom was a mirror to the wisest, and after that wise Prince Henry V, who by his prowess conquered all France. From these our Henry lineally descends.
Oxford, how haps it in this smooth discourse you told not how Henry VI hath lost all that which Henry V hath gotten? Methinks these peers of France should smile at that. But for the rest, you tell a pedigree of 62 years, a silly time to make prescription for a kingdom's worth.
Why, Warwick, canst thou speak against thy liege, whom thou obeyest 36 years, and not bewray thy treason with a blush?
Can Oxford, that did ever fence the right, now buckler falsehood with a pedigree? For shame, leave Henry, and call Edward king.
Call him my king, by whose injurious doom my elder brother, the Lord Aubrevere, was done to death, and more than so, my father? No, Warwick, no. While life upholds this arm upholds the house of Lancaster.
Queen Margaret, Prince Edward, and Oxford, vouchsafe at our request to stand aside while I use further conference with Warwick.
They stand aloof.
Heaven grant that Warwick's words bewitch him not.
Now, Warwick, tell me upon thy conscience, is Edward your true king? For if I were loath to link with him that were not lawful chosen.
Thereon I pawn my credit and mine honor.
But is he gracious in the people's eye?
The more that Henry was unfortunate.
Then further, all dissembling set aside, tell me for truth the measure of his love unto our sister Bona.
Such it seems as may beseem a monarch like himself. Myself have often heard him say and swear that this his love was an eternal plant, whereof the root was fixed in virtue's ground, the leaves and fruit maintained with beauty's sun, exempt from envy, but not from disdain, unless the Lady Bona quit his pain.
Then, Warwick, thus, our sister shall be Edward's, and now forthwith shall articles be drawn touching the jointure that your king must make, which with her dowry shall be counterpoised. Draw near, Queen Margaret, and be a witness that Bona shall be wife to the English king.
To Edward, but not to the English king.
Deceitful Warwick, it was thy device by this alliance to make void my suit. Before thy coming, Louis was Henry's friend.
And still is friend to him and Margaret. But if your title to the crown be weak, as may appear by Edward's good success, then 'tis but reason that I be released from giving aid, which late I promised. Yet shall you have all kindness at my hand that your estate requires, and mine can yield.
Henry now lives in Scotland at his ease, where, having nothing, nothing can he lose. And as for you yourself, our quondam queen, you have a father able to maintain you, and better 'twere you troubled him than France.
Peace, if it isn't shameless Warwick, proud setter up and puller down of kings. I will not hence, till with my talk and tears, both full of truth, I make King Louis behold thy sly conveyance and thy lord's false love, for both of you are birds of self-same feather.
Post, blowing a horn within.
Or, this is some post to us or thee.
Enter the post.
My lord ambassador, these letters for you, sent from your brother Marquis Montague. These for our king unto your majesty, and madam, these for you, from whom I know not.
They all read their letters.
I like it well that our fair queen and mistress smiles at her news, while Warwick frowns at his.
Nay, mark how Louis stamps as he were nettled. I hope all's for the best.
What, has your king married the Lady Grey? And now to soothe your forgery and his, sends me a paper to persuade me patience. Is this the alliance that he seeks with France? Dare he presume to scorn us in this manner?
I told your majesty as much before. This proveth Edward's love and Warwick's honesty.
King Louis, I here protest in sight of heaven, and by the hope I have of heavenly bliss, that I am clear from this misdeed of Edward's. No more my king, for he dishonors me, but most himself he could see his shame. Did I forget that by the house of York my father came untimely to his death? Did I impale him with the regal crown? Did I put Henry from his native right? And am I burdened at the last with shame? Shame on himself, for my desert his honor. And to repair my honor lost for him, I here renounce him and return to Henry.
He removes the white rose.
My noble king, my noble queen, let former grudges pass, and henceforth I am thy true servitor. I will revenge his wrong to Lady Bona, and replant Henry in his former state.
Warwick, these words have turned my hate to love, and I forgive and quite forget old faults. And joy that thou hast become King Henry's friend.
So much his friend, aye, his unfeigned friend. But if King Louis vouchsafe to furnish us with some few bands of chosen soldiers, I'll undertake to land them on our coast and force the tyrant from his seat by war. 'Tis not his new-made bride shall succor him. And as for Clarence, as my letters tell me, he's very likely now to fall from him, for matching more for wanton lust than honor, or than for strength and safety of our country.
Renowned prince, how shall poor Henry live unless thou rescue him from foul despair? Dear friend, how shall Bona be revenged but by thy help to this distressed queen? Our quarrels are but one.
And mine, for the fair Lady Bona, joins with yours.
And mine, with hers and thine and Margaret's. Therefore, at last I firmly you shall have aid. Then England's messenger return in post, and tell false Edward, thy supposed king, that Louis of France is sending over maskers to revel it with him and his new bride. Tell him in hope he'll prove a widower shortly. Thou seest what's past. Go fear thy king withal.
Tell him my mourning weeds are laid aside, and I am ready to put armor on.
Tell him from me that he hath done me wrong, and therefore I'll uncrown him ere be long. There's thy reward.
He gives the post the money.
Begone!
Exit post.
But Warwick, thou and Oxford, with 5,000 men, shall cross the seas and bid false Edward battle. And as occasion serves, this noble queen and prince shall follow with a fresh supply. Ere thou go, but answer me one doubt. What pledge have we of thy firm loyalty?
This shall assure my constant loyalty, that if our queen and this young prince agree, I'll join my eldest daughter and my joy to him forthwith in holy wedlock bands.
Yes, I agree, and thank you for your motion. Son Edward, she is fair and virtuous. Therefore delay not. Give thy hand to Warwick, and with thy hand thy faith irrevocable, that only Warwick's daughter shall be thine.
Yes, I accept her, for she well deserves it, and here to pledge my vow I give my hand.
He gives his hand to Warwick.
Why stay we now? These soldiers shall levied. I long would fall by chance, forking marriage, name of France.
Exeunt all but Warwick.
I came from Edward as ambassador, but I return his sworn and mortal foe. Matter of marriage was the charge he gave me, but dreadful war shall answer his demand. Had he none else to make estates but me, then none but I shall turn his jest to sorrow. I was the chief that raised him to the crown, and I'll be chief to bring him down again. Now that I pity Henry's misery, but seek revenge on Edward's mockery.
Exeunt. Act 4, Scene 1, London, the palace. Enter Richard, Clarence, and Montague, all wearing the white rose.
Now, tell me, brother Clarence, what think you of this new marriage with the Lady Grey? Hath not our brother made a worthy choice?
Lass, you know 'tis far from hence to France. How could he stay till Warwick made return?
Flourish.
My lords, forbear this talk. Here comes the king.
And his well-chosen bride.
I mind to tell him plainly what I think.
Enter King Edward with attendants, Lady Grey, who is now Queen Elizabeth, and other lords all wearing the white rose.
Now, brother of Clarence, how like you our choice, that you stand pensive as half malcontent?
As well as Louis of France or the Earl of Warwick, which are so weak of courage and in judgment that they'll take no offense at our abuse.
Suppose they take offense without a cause. They are but Louis and Warwick. I am Edward, your king, and Warwick's, and must have my will.
And shall have your will, because our king, yet hasty marriage seldom proveth well.
Yea, brother Richard, are you offended too?
Not I. No, God forbid that I should wish them severed, whom God hath joined together. Aye, and 'twere pity to sunder them that yoke so well together.
Setting your scorns and your mislike aside, tell me some reason why the Lady Grey should not become my wife and England's king? And you too, Marquis of Montague, speak freely what you think.
Then this is my opinion, that King Louis becomes your enemy for mocking him about the marriage of the Lady Bona.
And Warwick, doing what you gave in charge, is now dishonored by this new marriage.
What if both Louis and Warwick be appeased by such invention as I can devise?
Yet to have joined with France in such alliance would more have strengthened this our commonwealth against foreign storms than any homebred marriage.
Why, knows not Montague that of itself England is safe, if true within itself?
But the safer one 'tis backed with France.
'Tis better using France than trusting France. Let us be backed with God, and with the seas, which he hath given for hence impregnable, and with their helps only defend ourselves. In them and in ourselves our safety lies.
And yet methinks your grace hath not done well to give their heir and daughter of Lord Scales unto the brother of your loving bride. She better would have fitted me or Clarence, but in your bride you bury brotherhood.
Or else you would not have bestowed the heir of the Lord Bonneville on your new wife's son, and leave your brothers to go speed elsewhere.
Alas, poor Clarence, is it for a wife that thou art malcontent? I will provide thee.
In choosing for yourself, you showed your judgment, which, being shallow, you shall give me leave to play the broker in mine own behalf. And to that end, I shortly mind to leave you.
Leave me or tarry. Edward will be king, and not be tied unto his brother's will.
My lords, before it please his majesty to raise my state to title of a queen, do me but right, and you must all confess that I was not ignoble of descent, and meaner than myself have had like fortune. But as this title honors me and mine, so your dislikes, to whom it would be pleasing, to cloud my joys with danger and with sorrow.
My love, forbear to fawn upon their frowns. What danger or what sorrow can befall thee, so long as Edward is thy constant friend, and their true sovereign, whom they must obey? Nay, whom they shall obey, and love thee too, unless they seek for hatred at my hands, which if they do, yet will I keep thee safe, and they shall feel the vengeance of my wrath.
I hear, yet say not much, but think the more.
Enter a post.
Now, messenger, what letters or what news from France? What answer makes King Louis to our letters?
At my depart, these were his very words. Go tell false Edward, the supposed king, that Louis of France is sending over maskers to revel it with him and his new bride.
Is Louis so brave? Belike he thinks me Henry.
He continued, uttered with mild disdain, tell him in hope he'll prove a widower shortly.
Injurious king! But what said Henry's queen? For I have heard that she was there in place.
Tell him, quoth she, my mourning weeds are done, and I am ready to put armor on.
Belike she minds to play the Amazon. What said Warwick to these injuries?
He, more incensed against your majesty than all the rest, discharged me with these words. Tell him from me that he hath done me wrong, and therefore I'll uncrown him ere't be long.
Durst the traitor breathe out so proud words? Well, I will arm me. Being thus forewarned, they shall have wars and pay for their presumption. But say, is Warwick friends with Margaret?
Aye, gracious sovereign, they are so linked in friendship that young Prince Edward marries Warwick's daughter.
Belike the elder, Clarence will have the younger. Now, brother king, farewell and sit you fast, for I will hence to Warwick's other daughter, that though I want a kingdom, yet marriage I may prove inferior to yourself. You that love me and Warwick, follow me.
Exit Clarence.
Not I. My thoughts aim at a further matter. I stay not for the love of Edward. The crown.
My brother Clarence dares go to Warwick. Yet am I armed against the worst can happen, and haste is needful in this desperate case. Go, levy men and make prepare for war. They are already or quickly being landed. Myself in person will straight follow you.
Exit some other lords.
But ere I go, you, Marquis Montague, resolve my doubt. You twain, of all the rest, are near to Warwick my blood and by alliance. Tell me if you love Warwick more than me. If it be so, then you shall depart to him. I rather wish you foe than hollow friend. But if you mind to hold your true obedience, give me assurance, with some friendly vow, that I may never have you in suspect.
So God help Montague as he proves true.
Now, brother Richard, will you stand by us?
I, in despite of all that shall withstand you.
Why so? Then am I sure of victory. Now, therefore, let us hence and lose no hour, till we meet Warwick with his foreign power.
Exeunt. Scene 2, a plain in Warwickshire. Enter Warwick and Oxford in England, wearing the red rose with French soldiers.
Trust me, my lord. All hitherto goes well. The common people by numbers swarm to us.
Enter Clarence.
But see where George, the Duke of Clarence, comes. Speak suddenly, my lord. Are we all friends?
Fear not that, my lord.
Then, gentle George, welcome unto Warwick. Most welcome, Clarence. I hold it cowardice to rest mistrustful where a noble heart hath pawned an open hand in sign of love. Else might I think that Clarence, Edward's brother, were but a feigned friend to our proceedings. But welcome, sweet Clarence. My daughter shall be thine. And now, what rests but in night's coverture, thy brother being ceaselessly encamped, his soldiers lurking in the town about, and but attended by a simple guard, we may surprise and take him at our pleasure? Our scouts have found the adventure very easy, so we, well covered with the knight's black mantle, at unawares may beat down Edward's guard, and seize himself. I say not slaughter him, for I intend but only to surprise him. You that will follow me to this attempt, applaud the name of Henry with your leader.
Henry!
Henry!
Henry! Why then, let's on our way in silent sort, for Warwick and his friends, God and St. George.
Exeunt. Scene 3, Edward's camp near Warwick. Enter King Edward's tent, guarded. Enter Warwick, Clarence, Oxford, and French soldiers, all silent.
This is his tent, and see where stand his guard. Courage, my masters, honor, now or never, but follow me, and Edward shall be ours.
Warwick and the rest all cry,
Warwick!
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 Warwick! Warwick!
Warwick!
They set upon the guard, who fly, crying,
Arm! Arm!
Arm! Arm!
Warwick and the rest following them, the drum playing and the trumpet sounding. Re-enter Warwick, Clarence, Oxford, and soldiers, bringing King Edward out in his gown. Richard and other lords fly over the stage.
What are they that fly there?
Richard and others, let them go. Here is the Duke.
The Duke? Why, Warwick, when we parted, thou callest me king.
Aye, but if the case is altered, when you disgraced me in my ambassador, then I degraded you from being king. And come now to create you Duke of York. Alas, how should you govern any kingdom that know not how to use ambassadors, nor how to be contented with one wife, nor how to use your brothers brotherly, nor how to study for the people's welfare, nor how to shroud yourself from enemies?
Yea, brother of Clarence, art thou here too? Nay, then, I see that Edward's needs must down. Yet, Warwick, in despite of all mischance, of thee thyself and all thy complices, Edward will always bear himself as king. Though fortune's malice overthrow my state, my mind exceeds the compass of her wheel.
Then for his mind be Edward England's king.
Warwick takes off his crown.
But Henry now shall wear the English crown, and be true king indeed, thou but the shadow. My lord of Oxford, at my request, see that forthwith Duke Edward be conveyed unto my brother, Archbishop of York. When I have fought with the rest of his fellows, I'll follow you and tell what answer Lewis and the Lady Bona sent to him. Now for a while farewell, good Duke of York.
They begin to lead him out forcibly.
What fates impose, that men must needs abide, if boots not to resist both wind and tide.
Exit Oxford and soldiers guarding King Edward.
What now remains, my lords, for us to do but march to London with our soldiers?
Aye, that's the first thing that we have to do, to free King Henry from imprisonment and see him seated in the regal throne.
Exeunt. Scene 4, London, the palace. Enter Rivers and Queen Elizabeth, wearing the white rose.
Madam, what makes you in this sudden change?
My brother Rivers, are you yet to learn what late fortune has befallen King Edward?
What, lost in some pitched battle against Warwick?
No, but the loss of his own royal person.
Then is my sovereign slain?
Aye, almost slain, for he is taken prisoner. And as I have further have to understand, is now committed to the Bishop of York, fell Warwick's brother, and by that our foe.
News I must confess are full of grief. Yet, gracious madam, bear it as you may. Warwick may lose that now hath won the day.
Till then, fair hope must hinder life's decay. And I the rather wean me from despair for love of Edward's offspring in my womb. This is it that makes me bridle passion, and bear with mildness my misfortune's cross, lest with my sighs or tears I blast or drown King Edward's fruit, true heir to the English crown.
But, madam, where is Warwick then become?
I am informed that he comes towards London to set the crown once more on Henry's head. Guess thou the rest. King Edward's friends must down. But to prevent the tyrant's violence, for trust not him that hath once broken faith, I'll henceforth with him to the sanctuary to save at least the heir of Edward's right. There shall he rest secure from force and fraud. Come, therefore, let us fly while we may fly. If Warwick take us, we are sure to die.
Exeunt. Scene 5, a park near Middleham Castle in Yorkshire. Enter Richard with soldiers drawn, all wearing the white rose.
Leave off to wonder why I drew you hither into this chiefest thicket of the park. Thus stands the case. You know our king, my brother, is prisoner to the bishop here, and at whose hands he hath good usage and great liberty, and often but attended with a weak guard, comes hunting this way to disport himself. I have advertised him by secret means that, if about this hour he make his way, on the color of his usual came, he shall find here his friends, with horse and men, to set him free from his captivity.
Enter King Edward wearing the white rose, with one huntsman as guard with him.
This way, my lord, for this way lies the game. Nay, this way. Ah, man, see where the huntsmen stand. Now, brother of Gloucester, dear huntsman Richard, stand you thus close to steal the bishop's deer?
The time and ease requireth haste. Your horse stands ready at the park corner.
But whither shall we then?
To Lynne, my lord, and ship from thence to Flanders.
Sirrah, what sayest thou? Wilt thou go along? Better do so than tarry and be hanged.
But wherefore stay we? 'Tis no time for talk. Come then, away. Let's have no more ado.
Bishop, farewell. Shield thee from Warwick's frown. I pray that I may repossess the crown.
Exeunt. Scene 6, London, the Tower. Flourish. Enter King Henry, Clarence, Warwick, Oxford, and young Henry, Earl of Richmond, all wearing the red rose.
My most loyal friends, now that God and you have shaken Edward from the regal seat, as my captive state turned to liberty, my fears to hope, my sorrows unto joys. But Warwick, after God thou setst me free. He was the author, thou the instrument. Therefore, that I may conquer fortune's spite by living low where fortune cannot hurt me, and that the people of this blessed land may not be punished with my thwarting stars. Warwick, although my head still wear the crown, I here resign my government to thee, for thou art fortunate in all thy deeds.
Your grace hath still been famed for virtuous, and now may seem as wise as virtuous, by spying and avoiding fortune's malice, for few men rightly tempered with the stars. Yet, in this one thing let me blame your grace, for choosing me when Clarence is in place.
No, Warwick, thou art worthy of the sway, to whom the heavens in thy nativity adjudged an olive branch and laurel crown, as likely to be blessed in peace and war. And therefore I yield thee my free consent.
Warwick and Clarence, give me both your hands. Now join your hands, and with your hands your hearts, that no dissension hither in government.
He joins their hands.
I make you both protectors of this land, while I myself will lead a private life and in devotion spend my latter days to sin's rebuke and my Creator's praise.
What answers Clarence to his sovereign's will?
That he consents. If Warwick yield consent, for on thy fortune I repose myself.
Why then, though loath, yet must I be content. We'll yoke together like a double shadow to Henry's body, supply his place, I mean, in bearing weight at government, while he enjoys the honor and disease. And, Clarence, now then, it is more than needful, forthwith, that Edward be pronounced a traitor, and all his lands and goods be confiscated.
What else? And that succession be determined.
Aye, therein Clarence shall not want his part.
But with the first of all your chief affairs, let me entreat, for I command no more, that Margaret, my queen, and my son Edward be sent for, to return from France with speed, for till I see them here, by doubtful fear, my joy of liberty hath eclipsed.
It shall be done, my sovereign, with all speed.
My lord of Oxford, what youth is that of whom you seem to have so tender care?
My liege, it is young Henry, Earl of Richmond.
Come hither, England's hope.
He lays his hand on Richmond's head.
Secret powers suggest but truth to my divining thoughts. This pretty lad will prove our country's bliss. His looks are full of peaceful majesty, his head by nature formed to wear a crown, his hand to wield a scepter, and himself likely in time to bless a regal throne. Make much of him, my lords, for this is he must help you more than you are hurt by me.
Enter a post.
What news, my friend?
That Edward is escaped from your brother and fled, as he hears since, to Burgundy.
Unsavory news. But how made his escape?
He was conveyed by Richard, Duke of Gloucester, in secret ambush on the forest side, and from the bishop's huntsmen rescued him, for hunting was his daily exercise.
My brother was too careless of his charge. But let us hence, my sovereign, to provide a salve for any sore that may betide.
Exeunt all but Oxford.
I say I like not of this flight of Edward's. For doubtless Burgundy will help him yield, and we shall have more wars before it be long. As Henry's late presaging prophecy did glad my heart with hope of this young Richmond, so doth my heart misgive me in these conflicts what may befall him, to his harm and ours. Therefore, Lord Oxford, to prevent the worst, forthwith I'll send him hence to Brittany, till storms be past of civil enmity. For if Edward repossesseth the crown, 'tis like that Richmond, with the rest, shall down.
Exeunt. Scene 7 before York. Flourish. Enter King Edward, Richard, Montague, and soldiers, all wearing the white rose.
Now, brother Richard, Montague, and the rest. Yet thus far fortune maketh us amends, and says that once more I shall interchange my wane state for Henry's regal crown. Well, have we passed and now repassed the seas, and brought desired help from Burgundy. What then remains, we being thus arrived from Rasenburg haven before the gates of York, but that we enter as to our into our dukedom.
Montague knocks at the gate.
The gates made fast? Brother, I like not this, for many men that stumble at the threshold are well foretold that danger lurks within.
My liege, I'll knock once more to summon them.
Knocks. Enter on the walls the mayor of York and his brethren.
My lords, we were forewarned of your coming, and shut the gates for safety of ourselves. For now we owe allegiance unto Henry.
But, Master Mayor, if Henry be your king, yet Edward at least is Duke of York.
True, my good lord, I know you for no less.
Why? And I challenge nothing but my dukedom, as being well content with that alone.
Oh, when the fox hath once got in his nose, he'll soon find means to make the body follow.
Why, Master Mayor, why stand you in a doubt? Open the gates. We are King Henry's friends.
I say you so? The gates shall then be opened.
A wise, stout captain, and soon persuaded.
The good old man would fain that all were well, sir, 'twere not long of him. But being entered, I doubt not I, but we shall soon persuade both him and all his brothers unto reason.
So, Master Mayor, these gates must not be shut, but in the night or in time of war. What? Fear not man, but yield me up the keys.
King Edward takes the mayor's keys.
For Edward will defend the town and thee and all those friends that deign to follow me.
March. Enter Montgomery with drum and soldiers.
Brother, this is Sir John Montgomery, our trusty friend, unless I be deceived.
Welcome, Sir John. But why come you in arms?
To help King Edward in his time of storm, as every loyal subject ought to do.
Thanks, good Montgomery. But we now forget our title to the crown and only claim our dukedom till God please to send the rest.
Then fare you well, for I will hence again. I came to serve a king and not a duke. Drummer, strike up, and let us march away.
Nay, stay, Sir John, a while, and we'll debate by what safe means the crown may be recovered.
What talk you of debating? In few words, if you'll not make yourself our king, I'll leave you to your fortune and be gone, to keep them back that come to succor you. Why shall we fight if you pretend no title?
My brother, wherefore stand you on nice points?
When we grow stronger, then we'll make our claim. Till then, 'tis wisdom to conceal our meaning.
Away with scrupulous wit. Now arms must rule.
And fearless minds climb soonest unto grounds. Brother, we will proclaim you out of hand. The bruit thereof will bring you many friends.
Then be it as you will, for 'tis my right, and Henry but usurps the diadem.
Aye, now my sovereign speaketh like himself, and now will I be Edward's champion, and whosoe'er gainsays King Edward's right, by this I challenge him to single fight. Sound, trumpet! Edward shall be proclaimed!
Flourish. Sound.
Long
live Edward the Fourth!
Thanks, brave Montgomery, and thanks unto you all. If fortune serve me, I'll requite this kindness. Now for this night let's harbor here in York, and when the morning sun shall raise his car above the border of this horizon, we'll forward towards Warwick and his mates. For well I wot that Henry is no soldier. Ah, forward, Clarence. How evil it beseems thee to flatter Henry and forsake thy brother. Yet as we may, we'll meet both thee and Warwick. Come on, brave soldiers, doubt not of the day, and that once gotten, doubt not of large pay.
Exeunt. Scene 8. London, the palace. Flourish. Enter King Henry, Warwick, Clarence, and Oxford, all wearing the red rose.
What counsel, lords? Edward from Belgia, with hasty Germans and blunt Hollanders, hath passed in safety through the narrow seas, and with his troops doth march amain to London, and many giddy people flock to him.
A little fire is quickly trodden out, which, being suffered, rivers cannot quench.
In Warwickshire I have true-hearted friends, not mutinous in peace, yet bold in war. Those will I muster up, and thou, son Clarence, shalt stir up in Suffolk, Norfolk, and in Kent, the knights and gentlemen to come with thee, and thou, brave Oxford, wondrous well beloved, in Oxfordshire shall muster up thy friends. My sovereign, with the loving citizens, like modest Dian circled with her nymphs, shall rest in London till we come to him. Fair lords, take leave, and stand not to reply. Farewell, my sovereign.
Farewell, my Hector and my Troy's true hope. Well-minded Clarence, be thou fortunate. Sweet Oxford, and all of my loving lords, once more a happy farewell.
Farewell, sweet lords. Let's meet at Coventry.
Exeunt all but King Henry.
Here at the palace will I rest a while. Methinks the power that Edward hath in the field should not be able to encounter mine. The doubt is that he will seduce the rest, that's not my fear. My meed hath got me fame. I have not stopped mine ears to their demands, nor posted off their suits with slow delays. My pity hath been balm to heal their wounds, my mildness hath allayed their swelling griefs, my mercy dried their water-flowing tears. I have not been desirous of their wealth, nor much oppressed them with great subsidies, nor forward of revenge, though they much erred. Why should they love Edward more than me? These graces challenge grace. And when the lion fawns upon the lamb will never cease to follow him.
York! York!
Hark, what shouts are these?
Enter King Edward and Richard and soldiers, all wearing the white rose.
Seize on the shamefaced Henry, bear him hence, and once again proclaim us King of England. You are the fount that makes small brooks to flow. Now stops thy spring. My sea shall suck them dry and swell so much the higher by their ebb. Hence with him to the tower. Let him not speak.
Exit soldiers with King Henry under guard.
And, lords, towards Coventry bend we our course. Where peremptory Warwick now remains, the sun shines hot. And if we use delay, cold biting winter mars our hoped-for hay.
Away betimes before his forces join, and take the great-grown traitor unawares. Brave warriors, march amain towards Coventry.
Exeunt. Act 5. Scene 1, Coventry. Enter Warwick wearing the red rose, with the messenger upon the walls, both with papers.
Where is the post that came from valiant Oxford? How far hence is thy lord, mine honest fellow?
By this at Dunsmore, marching hitherward.
And, by thy guess, how nigh is Clarence now?
At Southam I did leave him with his forces, and do expect him here some 2 hours hence.
Then Clarence is at hand. I hear his drum.
It is not his, my lord. Here Southam lies. The drum your honor hears marcheth from Warwick.
Who should that be? Belike unlooked for friends.
March, flourish, enter below King Edward, Richard, and soldiers, all wearing the white rose.
See how the surly Warwick mans the wall.
Oh, unbid spite, is sportful Edward come? Where slept our scouts, or how are they seduced, that we could hear no news of his repair?
Now, Warwick, wilt thou ope the city gates, speak gentle words, and humbly bend thy knee? Call Edward king, and at his hands beg mercy, and he shall pardon thee these outrages.
Nay, rather wilt thou draw thy forces hence, confess who set thee up and plucked thee down, call Warwick patron, and be penitent, and thou shalt still remain the Duke of York.
I thought at least he would have said the king, or did he make the jest against his will?
'Tis not a dukedom, sir, a goodly gift.
Aye, by my faith, for a poor earl to give. I'll do thee service for so good a gift.
'Twas I that gave the kingdom to thy brother.
Why, then, 'tis mine, if but by Warwick's gift.
Thou art no Atlas for so great a weight, and, weakling, Warwick takes his gift again, and Henry is my king, Warwick his subject.
But Warwick's king is Edward's prisoner, and gallant Warwick, do but answer this. What is the body when the head is off?
Alas, that Warwick had no more forecast. But whilst he thought to steal the single 10, the king was slyly fingered from the deck. You left poor Henry at the bishop's palace. And 10 to 1 you'll meet him in the tower. Come, Warwick, take the time. Kneel down. Kneel down. Strike now, or else the iron cools.
I had rather chop this hand off at a blow, and with the other fling it at thy face, than bear so low a sail to strike to thee.
Sail how thou canst, have wind and tide thy friend. His hand, fast wound about thy coal-black hair, shall, whiles thy head is warm and new cut off, right in the dust, this sentence with thy blood. Wind changing Warwick, now can change no more.
Enter Oxford below, wearing the red rose, with soldiers, drum, and colors.
Oh, cheerful colors, see where Oxford comes.
Oxford! Oxford for Lancaster!
Oxford and his troops exit as through a city gate.
The gates are open. Let us enter too.
Though other foes may set upon our backs, stand we in good array, for they no doubt will issue out again and bid us battle. If not, the city, being but a small defense, will quickly rouse the traitors in the same.
Oxford enters aloft.
Oh, welcome, Oxford, for we want thy help.
The harder marched, the greater victory. My mind presageth happy gain and conquest.
Enter Clarence below, wearing the red rose, with soldiers, drum, and colors.
And lo, where George of Clarence sweeps along, of force enough to bid his brother battle, with whom an upright zeal to right prevails more than the nature of a brother's love. Come, Clarence, come, thou wilt, if Warwick call.
Father of Warwick, know what this means.
He removes
Look here, I throw my infamy at thee.
He throws the rose at Warwick.
I will not ruinate my father's house, who gave his blood to lime the stones together and set up Lancaster. Why trowest thou, Warwick, that Clarence is so harsh, so blunt, unnatural, to bend the fatal instruments of war against his brother and his loyal king? Perhaps thou wilt object my holy oath. To keep that oath were merely impiety, that Josephia, when he sacrificed his daughter. I am so sorry for my trespass made, that, to deserve well at my brother's hands, I here proclaim myself thy mortal foe, with resolution. Whereas so I meet thee as I meet thee, if thou stir abroad, to plague thee for thy foul misleading me. And so proud-hearted Warwick, I defy thee, and to my brother turn my blushing cheeks. Pardon me, Edward. I will make amends. And Richard, do not frown upon my faults, for I henceforth be no more unconstant.
Now, welcome more, and 10 times more beloved, than if thou never hadst deserved our hate.
Oh, welcome, poor Clarence. This is brother-like.
Oh, passing traitor, perjured and unjust.
What, Warwick? Will thou leave the town and fight? Or shall we beat the stones about thine ears?
Alas, I am not cooped here for defense. I will away toward Barnet presently, and bid thee battle, Edward, if thou darest.
Yes, Warwick, Edward dares and leads the way.
Warwick exits from the walls and descends.
Lords, to the field, St. George and victory!
Exeunt the Yorkists. March. Warwick and his company follows. Scene 2, a field of battle near Barnet. Alarum and excursions. Enter King Edward wearing the white rose, bringing forth Warwick wearing the red rose, wounded.
So, lie thou there, die thou, and die our fear, for Warwick was a bug that feared us all.
Exit King Edward.
Ah, who is nigh? Come to me, friend or foe, and tell me who is victor, York or Warwick. If I ask I that, my mangled body shows, my blood, my want of strength, my sick heart shows that I must yield my body to the earth and, by my fall, the conquest to my foe. Thus yields the cedar to the axe's edge, whose arms gave shelter to the princely eagle, under whose shade the ramping lion slept, whose top branch overpeered Jove's spreading tree, and kept low shrubs from winter's powerful wind. These eyes, that now are dimmed with death's black veil, hath been as piercing as the midday sun, to search the secret treasons of the world. The wrinkles in my brows, now filled with blood, were likened oft to kingly sepulchres. Who lived king but I could dig his grave? And who durst smile when Warwick bent his brow?
Lo, now my glory is smeared in dust and blood. Why, what is pomp, rule, reign, but earth and dust? And live we now we can, yet die we must.
Enter Oxford wearing the red rose.
Ah, Warwick, Warwick, wert though as we are, we might recover all our loss again. The Queen from France hath brought a puissant power. Even now we heard the news. Ah, couldst thou fly?
Why, then, I would not fly. Ah, Montague, if thou be there, sweet brother, take my hands, and with thy lips keep in my soul a while. Thou lovest me not, for, brother, if thou didst, my tears would wash this cold congealed blood that glues my lips and will not let me speak. Come quickly, Montague, or I am dead.
Ah, Warwick, Montague hath breathed his last, and to the latest gasp cried out for Warwick, and said, commend me to my valiant brother.
Sweet rest his soul. Fly, lords, and save yourselves, for Warwick bids you all farewell to meet in heaven.
He dies.
Away, away to meet the Queen's great power.
Exit Oxford bearing Warwick's body. Scene 3, another part of the field. Flourish. Enter King Edward in triumph with Richard, Clarence, and the rest, all wearing the white rose.
Thus far, our fortune keeps an upward course, and we are graced with wreaths of victory. But in the midst of this bright shining day, I spy a black, suspicious, threatening cloud that will encounter with our glorious sun, ere he attain his easeful western bed. I mean, my lords, those powers that the Queen hath raised in Gallia have arrived our coast, and, as we hear, march on to fight with us.
Queen is valued 30,000 strong, and Oxford, without Warwick, fled to her. If she have time to breathe, be well assured her fashion will be as strong as ours.
We are advertised by our loving friends that they do hold their course towards Tewkesbury. We having now the best at Barnet Field will thither straight, for willingness rids way. And as we march, our strength will be augmented in every county as we go along. Strike up the drum, cry, courage, and away.
Courage!
They exit. Scene 4, plains near Tewkesbury. Flourish, march. Enter Queen Margaret, Prince Edward, Oxford, and more lords and soldiers, all wearing the red rose.
Great lords, wise men ne'er sit and wail their loss, but cheerily seek how to redress their harms. What, though the mast be now blown overboard, the cable broke, the holding anchor lost, and half our sailors swallowed in the flood? Yet lives our pilot still. Is meet that he should leave the helm, and like a fearful lad, with tearful eyes, add water to the sea, and give more strength to that which hath too much, whilst his moan the ship splits on the rock, which industry and courage might have saved? Ah, what a shame! Ah, what a fault were this! Say Warwick were our anchor. What of that? Our slaughtered friends he tackles. What of these? Why, is not Oxford yet another anchor? The friends of France are shrouds and tacklings, and though unskillful, why not Ned and I for once allowed the skillful pilot's charge? Will we not from the helm to sit and weep, but keep our course through the rough and wind, say no from shelves and rocks that threaten us with wrack? As good to chide the waves as speak them fair. And what is Edward but a ruthless sea? What Clarence but a quicksand of deceit? And Richard but a ragged, fatal rock? All these the enemies of our poor bark? This speak I, lords, to let you understand, in case some of you would fly from us, that there's no hope for mercy with the brothers, more than the ruthless waves with sands and rocks. Why, courage then, and what cannot be avoided, 'twere childish weakness to lament and fear.
Methinks a woman of this valiant spirit should, if a coward heard her speak these words, infuse his breast with magnanimity, and make him, naked, foil a man-at-arms. If any such be here, as God forbid, let him depart before we need his help.
Oh, brave young prince, thy famous grandfather doth live again in thee. Long mayest thou live to bear his image and renew his glories. And he that will not fight for such a hope, go home to bed, and like the owl by day, if he arise, be mocked and wondered at.
Enter a messenger.
Prepare you, lords, for Edward is at hand, ready to fight. Therefore, be resolute.
Exit.
See ya.
I thought no less. It is his policy to haste thus fast to find us unprovided. But he's deceived. We are in readiness. Here pitch our battle, hence we will not budge.
Flourish and march. Enter King Edward, Richard, Clarence, and soldiers, all wearing white rose.
Brave followers, yonder stands the thorny wood, which by the heavens' assistance and your strength must by the roots be hewn up yet ere night. I need not add more fuel to your fire, for well I wot you blaze to burn them out. Give signal to the fight, and to it, lords.
Lords, knights, and gentlemen, what should I say my fears gainsay? For every word I speak, you see I drink the water of mine eye. Therefore, no more but this. Henry, your sovereign, is prisoner to the foe, his state usurped, his realm a slaughterhouse, his subjects slain, his statutes cancelled, and his treasure spent. And yonder is the wolf that makes his spoil. You fight in justice. Then, in God's name, lords, be valiant and give signal to the fight.
Alarm!
Go, go, go!
Retreat, excursions, exeunt. Scene 5, another part of the field. Flourish. Enter King Edward, Richard, Clarence, all wearing the white rose, with soldiers guarding Queen Margaret and Oxford, wearing the red rose, prisoners.
Now here a period of tumultuous broils. Away with Oxford to Haynes Castle straight. Go bear him hence. I will not hear him speak.
For my part, I'll not trouble thee with words.
So part we sadly in this troublous world, to meet with joy in sweet Jerusalem.
Exit Oxford under guard.
Is proclamation made that who finds Edward shall have a high reward, and he his life?
It is, and lo, wherefore youthful Edward comes.
Enter Prince Edward, wearing the red rose under guard.
Bring forth the gallant, let us hear him speak. What can so young a thorn begin to prick? Edward, what satisfaction canst thou make for bearing arms, for stirring up my subjects, and all the trouble thou hast turned me to?
Speak like a subject, proud, ambitious York. Suppose that I am now my father's mouth. Resign thy chair, and where I stand kneel thou, whilst I propose the selfsame words to thee, which, traitor, thou wouldst have me answer to.
Ah, that thy father had been so resolved.
That you might still have worn the petticoat, and there haven't stolen the breech from Lancaster.
Let Aesop's fable in a winter's night. His cur's riddle sorts not with this place.
Oh, by heavens, brat, I'll plague you for that word.
Aye, thou wast born to be a plague to men.
For God's sake, take away this captive scold.
Nay, take away this scolding crookback, rather.
Peace, willful boy, or I will charm your tongue.
Untutored lad, thou art too malaprep.
I know my duty. You are all undutiful. Lascivious Edward, and thou perjured George, And thou, misshapen Dick, I tell you all, I am your better, traitors as you are, and thou usurpest my father's right and mine.
Take that, the likeness of this railer, here.
Suppose thou, take that to end thy agony.
Richard stabs Prince Edward.
And therefore twitting me with perjury.
Clarence stabs Prince Edward.
Oh, kill me too.
Oh, marry, and will.
He goes to kill her.
Hold, Richard, hold, for we have done too much.
Why should she live to fill the world with words?
Queen Margaret faints.
What? Doth she swoon? Use means for her recovery.
They attempt to revive her. Richard takes Clarence aside.
Clarence, excuse me to the king, my brother. I'll hence to London on a serious matter. Ere you come there, be sure to hear some news.
What?
The tower! The tower!
Exit Richard. Queen Margaret rises.
Oh, Ned. Sweet Ned, speak to thy mother, boy. Canst thou not speak? Oh, traitors, murderers! They that stabbed Caesar shed no blood at all, did not offend, nor were not worthy of blame, if this foul deed were not by to equal it. Oh, he was a man, this in respect a child, and men ne'er spent their fury on such a child. What's worse than murder? That I may name it? No, my heart will burst if I speak, and I will speak so that my heart may burst. Butchers and villains, bloody cannibals. How sweet a plant have you untimely cropped. You have no children, butchers. If you had, the thought of them would have stirred up remorse. But if you ever chance to have a child, look in his youth to have him cut off. As deathmen you have rid this sweet prince.
Away with her. Go bear her hence perforce.
Nay, never bear me hence. Dispatch me here. Here sheath thy sword. I'll pardon thee my death. What? Wilt thou not? Then, Clarence, do it thou.
By heavens, I will not do thee so much ease.
Oh, good Clarence, do. Sweet Clarence, do thou do it.
Didst thou not hear me swear I would not do it?
Aye, but thou used to forswear thyself. 'Twas sin before, but now 'tis charity. What? Wilt thou not? Where's that devil's butcher, Richard? Hard-favored Richard. Richard, where art thou? Thou art not here. Oh, murders thou alms deed, petitioners for blood thou ne'er putst back.
Away, I say. I charge you bear her hence.
So come to you and yours, as to this prince.
Exit Queen Margaret under guard. Soldiers carry off Prince Edward's body.
Where's Richard gone?
London all in post, and I guess to make a bloody supper in the tower.
He's sudden if a thing comes in his head. Now march we hence, discharge the common sorts with pay and thanks, and let's away to London and see our gentle queen, how well she fares. By this I hope she hath a son for me.
Exeunt. Scene 6, London, the Tower. Enter King Henry wearing the red rose and Richard wearing the white rose.
Good day, my lord. Why are your books so hard?
Aye, my good lord. My lord, I should say rather, 'tis sin to flatter. Good was light, little better. Good Gloucester and good devil were alike, and both preposterous. Therefore not good lord. But wherefore dost thou come? For my life?
Thinkst thou I am an executioner?
A persecutor I am sure thou art. If murdering innocents be executing, why then thou art an executioner.
Thy son I killed for his presumption.
A Hadst thou been killed when first thou didst presume, thou hadst not lived to kill a son of mine. And thus I prophesy that many 1,000 which now mistrust no parcel of my fear, and many an old man's sigh, and many a widow's, and many an orphan's water-standing eye, men for their sons, wives for their husbands, orphans for their parents' timeless death, shall rue the hour that ever thou wast born. The owl shrieked at thy birth, an evil sign. The night crow cried, a boding luckless time. Dogs howled, and hideous tempests shook down trees. The raven rooked her on the chimney's top, and chattering pies in dismal discord sung. Thy mother felt more than a mother's pain, and yet brought forth less than a mother's hope. To wit, an indigested and deformed lump, not like the fruit of such a goodly tree. Teeth hadst thou in thy head when thou wast born, to signify thou camest to bite the world. And if the rest be true which I have heard, thou camest like—
Hear no more! Die, prophet, in thy speech!
Richard stabs him.
For this, amongst the rest, I was ordained.
Aye, for much more slaughter after this. So God, forgive my sins and pardon thee.
King Henry dies.
What? Will the expiring blood of Lancaster sink in the ground? I thought it would have mounted down to hell, and say I sent thee hither.
He stabs him again.
I that have neither pity, love, nor fear. Indeed, 'tis true that Henry told me of. For I have oft heard my mother say, I came into the world with my legs forward. Had I not reason, think you, to make haste, and seek their ruin, that a serpent hour right? The midwife wondered, and the women cried, Oh, Jesus bless us, he is born with teeth. And so I was, which plainly signified that I should snarl and bite and play the dog then. Since the heavens have shaped my body so, let hell crook my mind to answer it. I have no brother. I am like no brother. And this word love, which graybeards call divine, be resident in men like one another, but not in me. I am myself, alone. Clarence, beware. Thou keepest me from the light, but I will sort a pitchy day for thee. For I will buzz abroad such prophecies that Edward shall be fearful for his life. And then to purge his fear, I'll be thy death. King Henry and the prince, his son, are gone. Clarence, thy turn is next, and then the rest, counting myself but bad, till I be best. I'll throw thy body in another room, and triumph on Henry in thy day of doom.
Exit Richard carrying out the body. Scene 7, London, the palace. Flourish. Enter King Edward, Queen Elizabeth, Clarence, Richard, Montgomery, a nurse carrying infant Prince Edward, and attendants.
Once more we sit in England's royal throne, repurchased with the blood of enemies. What valiant foemen, like to autumn's corn, have we mowed down in tops of all their pride. 3 Dukes of Somerset, threefold renowned, for hardy and undoubted champions, 2 Cliffords, as the father and the son, and 2 Northumberlands, 2 braver men never spurred their courses at the trumpet's sound. With them the brave bear, Earl of Warwick, that in his chains fettered the kingly lion and made the forest tremble when he roared. Thus have we swept suspicion from our seat and made our footstool of security. Come hither, Bess, and let me kiss my boy. Young Ned, for thee, thine uncles, and myself, have in our armors watched the winter's night, went all afoot in summer's scalding heat, that thou mightest repossess the crown in peace, and of our labors thou shalt reap the gain.
Blast his harvest, if your head were laid, for yet I am not looked on in the world. This shoulder was ordained so thick to heave, and heave it shall some weight or break my back. Work thou the way, and thou shalt execute.
Clarence and Gloucester, love my lovely queen, and kiss your princely nephew, brothers both.
The duty that I owe unto your majesty, I seal upon the lips of this sweet babe.
He kisses the infant.
And I that love the tree from whence thou sprangest, witness the loving kiss, I give the fruit.
He kisses the infant.
To say the truth, so Judas kissed his master and cried all hail, whereas he meant all harm.
Now am I seated as my soul delights, having my country's peace and brother's love.
What will your grace have done with Margaret? Rainier, her father, to the king of France hath pawned the seagulls and Jerusalem, and hither have they sent it for her ransom.
Away with her, and waft her hence to France. And now, what rests but that we spend the time with stately triumphs, mirthful comic shows, such as befits the pleasure of the court? Sound drums and trumpets. Farewell, sour annoy, for here I hope begins our lasting joy.
Flourish. Exeunt.
Huzzah!
Wow, that's quite a cliffhanger. I wonder what happens.